It is the day of the school's entrance ceremony. Our main protagonist, called Takizo, who is the only member of the Koto Club, is eagerly hoping to recruit new members. He informs the principal that the club would be disbanded if he doesn't get an application, so he has to try his hardest. The club room sign has been vandalized, and inside he discovers some delinquents have turned the club room into their base. He asks them to leave, but instead they beat him up and tell him to give up on the useless club. As he insists they leave again, they beat him up some more. But a young guy called Chika comes to his aid, and since he is already known as a notorious fighter, he scares them off. Takizo informs Chika he is the president of the Koto Club, and he freaks out in disbelief. Chika then hands him his application to join the club. Once inside, Chika notices the room is in shambles. However, Takizo then kicks him out of the room thinking he is another delinquent. Later, Takizo finds that the club sign has been replaced by Chika. At home, he recalls the first time he saw the Koto Club perform. They were so bad that he felt pity for them, so he later ended up joining the club. The next day, he approaches Chika for the club sign, but he refuses to give it back. When he heads into the club room, he finds Chika cleaning the whole place. He is handed back the garbage to dispose of, so he heads on out with it. He encounters the delinquents again, but before they can lay a finger on him, Chika steps in. He tries to fight on his behalf, but Takizo won't have it, telling him violence isn't the answer, and so they get into an argument. Later in the club room, Takizo feels bad for what he said, so he goes to find Chika, who isn't in his classroom. Chika's friend named Tetsuki then explains to Takizo how Chika developed an interest in Koto after moving in with his grandfather. He explains how Chika's grandfather changed his violent way of life. However, his former delinquent gang went to destroy his grandfather's shop. They wrecked everything and framed Chika for it, and so he was arrested. After hearing the story, Takizo heads to the club but is attacked. When Chika arrives at the scene, the teachers come in and the incident is blamed on him yet again. After Takizo wakes up, the nurse advises him not to involve himself with Chika anymore, although he considers it. When he finds that the club sign has been fixed, he has a change of heart. Just before Chika is expelled, Takizo arrives at the principal's office to defend him. Shortly after, a staff member comes with the message that the real culprits have been caught. Later in the club room, Chika warns Takizo that he has to get more members to avoid the club's disbandment. At the school hall, Takizo is nervous because he has to perform solo. He gets on stage and begins playing, although the other students don't pay attention. This makes Chika mad, so he makes a scene and ruins the whole performance. Afterward, they head to the club where they find a girl inside, who reveals that she wants to join the club and introduces herself as Satoa Hazuki. Takizo is shocked when he discovers that she is the daughter of the owner of a famous Koto school. She then tells them her dreams of going pro, and for that reason, she wants to take the club to the finals and make a name for herself. Satoa and Chika start off on the wrong foot, so he walks out. The next day, it turns out they sit next to each other in class. Chika tries to ask her for advice, but she insults him instead, so he gets angry and leaves again. Later, he stops in front of the club, where he listens to Satoa play the koto so differently than how Takizo played the day before. He is touched by her sound, so he goes to beg the principal to repair the damaged instruments. Takizo arrives to see all the instruments being taken for maintenance, so Satoa tells him she would be off until they are repaired. Takizo then asks for Chika, but he avoids him every time. Along with Satoa, they find out Chika has been working in a Koto store. The shop assistant explains that he was persistent on helping with the repair of the damaged instruments since it was his fault they got broken. Meanwhile, Chika discovers that he has been found out. He tells them to leave, however they end up asking the shop owner to let them help in the repairs too. Later, Satoa points out Chika's delinquent attitude to be the reason they are not having new members. So the next day, some guys named Kota, Sane, and Mitsu meet up with Chika. Upon seeing them, Satoa pretends to be friendly, so the boys get attracted by her beauty, and she is able to trick them into joining their club. They all go to the repair shop to finish up, and Takizo asks Satoa to help Chika pick a suitable plectrum. As she lends him a hand, he asks if it was her parents she learned the koto from, however the question makes her angry. The following day, Chika finds Kota and company playing cards inside the club room. The vice principal catches them in the act, but Chika covers for them. He then asks them to prove that their club is serious by making a presentation after a week. However, Satoa cuts in and begs him to extend the limit to a month. After school, Kota and company overhear the vice principal plotting to disband the club. They recalled a time when Chika protected them from some thugs despite not being their friend, so they decided to return the favor. The next day, they arrive at the club to train under Satoa. She begins explaining the basics of koto to the group. After her explanation, Chika tries to play the written notations, but after a while the whole group is burnt out. After seeing this, Satoa decides the only option is to skip the basics and just help them learn a piece. piece. They arrive at a koto performance where they are to listen to the piece they would eventually practice. The piece is elegantly performed by some grade schoolers, however they get discouraged when hearing that it'll be impossible to learn in a month's time. After the performance, the group notices Satoa's mother with the performing student, but she seems to be avoiding them. In the morning, Takizo arrives to find Chika and Satoa bickering again, but he is able to calm the situation. Later, Chika's group asks the shop owner to let them practice in her house, and since she knew his grandfather, she permits them. After much individual practice, everyone comes together to play the parts. Although the start comes out nice, they get out of sync when Satoa adds her 17-string koto. She tries to correct them, but she is terrible at teaching. So Takizo gets an idea and invites everyone to dinner. Satoa tries to pass, but Chika doesn't let her. In the restaurant, she is asked to prepare the meal, and even though she doesn't have the skills to do it, she doesn't say anything, so Chika takes it from her. They tell her it's okay if she can't do everything alone and that she should ask for help from others. The next day, they are able to get in sync more thanks to last night's bonding, and so they succeed in playing together for the first time. After school curfew, they begin practice at the granny's shop, where Satoa explains they have to keep playing over and over until they are able to reach the hearts of the people. After some time, Satoa hears a gentle melody and rushes away to confirm who's playing it, and they are shocked to see that Chika has improved so much. Kota comes early to practice, so when Satoa asks why they suddenly became so serious, she is shocked when he explains Chika's story and how his determination motivates them all. After hearing this, Satoa is filled with guilt because of the way she has been treating Chika. While crying, she bumps into Chika outside. At first, she lies about her tears, saying that she just has hay fever, but then apologizes to him and they make up. Later, under Satoa, they keep practicing in school, and later they continue at the koto shop. During the break, the granny tells them despite their improvement, they still need to learn to put their feelings into the music. The day of the performance has finally come. As everyone feels nervous, Takizo thinks of how to lighten the mood, but Satoa beats him to it by giving the prep talk. On stage, Takizo begins the opening speech but is quickly interrupted by a student. After Chika gives them a scare, he regains his confidence and finishes the speech. When they begin playing, the atmosphere changes drastically as everyone is shocked by how unexpectedly good they sound. During the performance, Chika gets flashbacks from his time of being a delinquent and how he relied on Tetsuki when things got bad, and then he recalls the kind motivating words of his late grandfather. The performance continues while Chika keeps reminiscing about his past. When he begins playing his solo, the whole school, including the principal, is stunned. The group continues playing the climax of the piece, which they are able to end perfectly. After finishing, they are cheered by the entire school, who enjoyed the performance very much. Still trying to get on Chika's case, the vice principal is silenced when everyone begins thanking and labeling him as the source of their motivation. After school, Chika meets up with the granny, who then shows him the last koto his grandfather made. When she tells him he can have it, he humbly declines. However, she shows him his grandfather already engraved his name on it. The next day in the club, they are visited by Mr. Takanami, who is the club advisor. When he hears them talking about going to the national competition, he demoralizes them instantly, telling Satoa that staying in the club will make her play worse, which dampens the mood. So Takizo recalls of time he did something similar to the club in the previous year. In class, we meet a girl called Hiro who submits her application to join his club. He then takes her to the meeting where she is introduced to everyone. Takizo reveals their next plan is to participate in a regional competition coming in August. They wonder if Hiro will be able to keep up, so she reveals she has an idea about koto already. The following, Chika brings his new koto to school. Satoa notes that the type of koto is too expensive and costs more than 1,000,000 yen. She tells him she would bring another one for him to practice, so he should take his home for safekeeping. During practice, Satoa begins feeling out of place due to Hiro's petty meddling, and due to that she phones in absent from school. In class, the teacher hands Chika a handout to deliver to her. During the club, the boys think that they caused Satoa so much stress she must have broke down. Hiro then cuts in with more lies, telling Chika that Satoa told her it's tiring playing the koto with someone with a character like his. Unfortunately, Chika doesn't believe her lies. At that moment, Takizo gets a glimpse of her dark side, but she quickly covers it up with a smile. After school, Chika tries to locate her house but is surprised where he ends up, and when he rings the alarm, he finds Satoa looking very sick. Upon seeing her, he freaks out, however she collapses shortly after, so Chika lays her in the bed. He then goes looking for a towel, which he places on her head because of the fever. He notices some koto CDs, so he decides to watch them while Satoa dreams of the past. After her father died, her mother was forced to inherit the school, but she didn't know much about the koto, and in turn members started leaving. This made her training stricter, but she endured it anyway if it meant getting better to attract people back to the school. Her mother then continued to train her with an iron fist and eventually denied her friends in school and other means of socialization by forcing her to focus solely on practicing the koto. During her presentation, she decides to play a different piece with the hope of it reaching her mother, who doesn't see her anymore. Despite being hailed for an awesome performance, her mother gets angry and distances herself even more. When she wakes up in the morning, she finds Chika still in the house. He tells her he couldn't leave a sick person alone. However, after he checks her temperature, he leaves for school. At school, everyone is happy that she is all better now, but Hiro ruins the mood again by asking her why she is keeping a secret. She tries to reveal the secret, but Sato would rather say it herself. She then reveals that she was expelled from her family's koto school, but unfortunately the group doesn't give the reaction Hiro expected, so she runs out in disgust. Tekizo chases after her and she reveals that she only joined the club to break their bonds and humiliate him. This upsets Tekizo, but he manages to remain calm. As Hiro goes away, she recalls how her terrible habit of deceit began after a girl stole her boyfriend by spitefully lying against her. The following day, Tekizo approaches Hiro to ask why she was crying yesterday, but she doesn't respond. Upon seeing them, Sato catches up to her in the hall. She tells her that she thinks they are more alike than she knows. After all, they both joined the Koto Club because during the performance they seem to be having fun. And so later, she goes back to the club reluctantly but is greeted with a warm welcome. The next day, Sato arrives to practice with her face plastered. She reveals that she'd been apologizing to people she ruined with her lies, and the injuries are a result of their anger. Mr. Takanami then comes in to watch them rehearse. Meanwhile, Chika is finding it difficult to understand the script, so he suggests Sato plays it first. As she plays, the group is moved by how well her notes sound. Chika begs her to teach him to play like that. However, she explains everyone needs to play the piece in their own way. Later, Chika informs the guys that he now lives with his aunt. They follow him home to practice and are in awe of the building. Inside, his aunt called Isaki turns out to be a hot babe. In his room, they notice Chika has an additional koto. However, he tells them he feels that he isn't ready to use the one his grandfather made for him just yet. The boys then encourage him, saying he has worked hard enough to be acknowledged. He then begins playing on the koto and the tune brings everyone to tears. Isaki also recalls when her father made her promise to care for Chika, who is now changing in a positive manner. The next day, Chika finds two girls named Kazusa and Fumi in front of the clubroom. Although they freak out because they seem to be scared of boys, and they get excited when Sato walks in. Kazusa reveals she is a huge fan of hers, so she invites her to come to her koto school. Sato refuses, stating she likes it here with the boys. Kazusa then invites them to listen to their joint practice in hopes that hearing them would change Sato's mind. During the weekend, they arrive at Mario Koto School to find Mr. Takanami already waiting for them. Once inside, a hyperactive boy called Aosuke is excited that so many boys can be in a koto club, but he is made to behave by his senior, who doesn't want him to be too friendly with the visitors. As the performance begins, their sound is incredibly intense. Sato explains that the piece being played is supposed to be a duet, but they are able to play it coordinately with so many people. As they listen, Tekizo and everyone then realizes how inferior they truly are. Aosuke then adds that if they are to go to the nationals, they have to do better than what they just heard. Kazusa then tries to persuade Sato again, so Chika holds onto her and tells Kazusa to get lost. Chika then speaks for everyone that they'll improve and catch up with Sato soon enough. However, Tekizo doesn't see it happening. As they head home, Tekizo encounters his middle school classmates. When he tells them he came with the Koto Club, they begin mocking him. However, Chika confronts them head-on. Tekizo begs him to let it go, but Chika refuses, making a huge deal out of Tekizo pretending he is okay being pushed around. As they argue, Mr. Takanami steps in to calm the situation, which ends awkwardly. During practice the next day, the atmosphere is still tense, so they are out of sync. They then decide to go practice on their own for the time being. At home, Hiro visits Tekizo. She tells him she has been appointed as the club's vice president, so he doesn't have to bear all the burden anymore. The following day, he goes to apologize to Chika for lashing out at him and for being an unreliable leader. But Chika tells him he doesn't have to apologize and that the problem is that he doesn't think himself worthy of being the club president. They then make up and head to the club room where everyone is waiting for them. When they begin practicing in groups, Kota and Hiro are paired together, and it turns out he hasn't gotten his part at all. After school, Tekizo suggests they plan a training camp at school, so Hiro volunteers to let them use her uncle's inn. So the next day he goes to take permission from Mr. Takanami, but he doesn't like the idea. Tekizo then tells him to quit his role so a more motivated teacher can help them. Upon hearing this, he smiles and agrees to chaperone them. During the training camp trip, Mr. Takanami lets them listen to their previous performance, so each of them notes their flaws. At the end, Chika asks Sato to play a part for him. However, she complains that he is too close to her before sampling the part for him as he watches her keenly. As they practice together a while later, However, Koto keeps making errors, but Takizo compliments Mitsu for his improvement as Chika can now play the part Satoa sampled for him. As they compliment Chika's improvement, this eventually makes Koto feel out of place. That night he runs away from the camp, and so later the boys discover that Koto is missing. They immediately move out to search for him while Takizo reports to Mr. Takanami. While looking, Chika finds him practicing alone in the forest. He tells him he didn't want to wake everybody up, so he decided to practice on his own, so he won't hold everyone back during the performance. After the rest of the boys find them in the forest, the girls arrive shortly after and apologize for pushing him too hard. The next morning everyone is still out of it because they didn't get enough sleep. Mr. Takanami then uses a method to teach Koto how to get used to a music's tempo. On the final day of the training camp, they decide to play their parts together, so Hiro encourages Koto to feel at ease. They are able to play the piece to the end without Koto making any errors this time. So the training camp comes to an end. Several days later, it's finally time for the regional tournament. At the venue they meet Aosuke again, and also Kazusa, who is extremely happy to see Satoa once more. When Chika butts in, she tells him she can't wait to hear how awful his performance would be. Inside the hall, the judges announce that Mario High School would be performing first. Aosuke then leads his team as they play in a way called an ensemble. Although there are numerous players, one cannot differentiate each sound from the other. As Aosuke plays his solo, it sounds so lonely and piercing. Because he was always weak in his childhood, he didn't have any friends. Not until he got a new neighbor called Asano. Knowing he is weak, she then introduces him to a koto school, and afterward he began hanging out with her and slowly became capable of building a strong mental front. Shortly after he finishes the winter part of the piece, which was so awesome everyone gets goosebumps. After the performance, everyone is weighed down with a sense of defeat. But with Satoa and Takizo's encouragement, Chika is pumped to give it everything he's got. Outside, Tetsuki and Isaki arrive to watch their performance. As they wait for their turn, Aosuke comes to ask them what they thought about his solo, and they praise him in all honesty. The duo Haru and Sen then prepare to go on stage for their performance, and when they begin playing their piece, everyone is impressed that they are able to stay synced with the speed of their play. Although Sen is leading Haru, he is able to keep up with whatever he does. Shortly after, they end their performance and are given a clapping ovation. The next group to perform is announced as Himasaka, who are known as national contenders. They play the same pieces during the practice, but with a lot of improvements than before. In the audience, Isaki is sleepy because she finds their performance boring. She then asks who Chika's coach is, so Tetsuki informs her it is Mr. Takanami. The name rings a bell, so she recalls that Takanami is supposedly from a musical household. But unfortunately, he didn't take up music. What really happened was that during Mr. Takanami's childhood, his parents were worried that he wasn't picking up any instruments. However, they soon discovered he could write scores for orchestras. It was discovered that he didn't like playing but rather listening. Labeling him a genius, his compositions were now being adopted by pros. Eventually, he found his life boring, and so he got tired of music. As the group prepares their equipment, Hiro accidentally drops her koto. However, before it can land on Satoa, Chika helps to remedy the situation. Even though both Satoa and the instruments are safe, he ends up with a hand injury. The accident makes Hiro more nervous, so Takizo puts her mind at ease by saying they just have to enjoy themselves on stage. As they head to the waiting room, Mr. Takanami drags Chika away to the toilet, where he tells him that he cannot play together with the team given his hand injury. However, Chika tells him it's fine and he has to play. Outside, he notes how his hands have become more swollen, and just then Sane calls him for a pre-performance trial, so he lies that he has a running stomach. On their way backstage, Chika catches up with the group while hiding his injured hand. After seeing the group spirit, Takizo decides to allow him to play. They then arrive on stage to perform their piece with everyone watching. Takizo takes the lead as the group begins resounding their windy notes. Next, Satoa begins her solo as Aosuke and Kazusa watch from the audience. When they begin playing the duet, Chika can't keep up with Takizo. Their performance begins falling apart note by note as everyone thinks anxiously about how to cover the errors. However, it is Kota's effort that brings the group back in sync. So the next duet by Chika and Takizo, they are able to make up for their previous error. When Chika begins his solo, everyone is in awe, which motivates Satoa to give out a wonderful intro to the climax of the piece, which becomes more melodious as they play by putting their feelings into it until the end. And this brings the anime to an end.